What's going on, everybody? This is your boy, Mr. E, boss of the Southside Bosses, coming to you live on.
This is the Revolutionary Hour.
Well, we're going to bring y'all some great information. We have a wonderful guest that's going to be joining us here today from the MSTA, the Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple Mission 28. So make sure y'all go ahead and get your pencils and paper ready, because we're going to be giving you some knowledge that you can actually apply to your life, making it applicable and technology. You heard me? So go ahead and tune in, turn up your zone out, and do me a favor. Find Revolutionary Hour on your favorite streaming service, whether it's Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon MP3, Deezer, and more. And follow, like, subscribe, and share us to all your family and friends so that we can get this knowledge out there, because it's definitely knowledge that we need to be able to use and to get our lives better. And beware, it will change your life for the better. You heard me? Alrighty, so after a word from one of our sponsors and some music from your boy personally, Mr. E, the Gutter Baby Southside, boss of the Southside Bosses, we're going to be giving to you some great knowledge, so y'all make sure y'all get ready for it, baby. Here's a word from one of our sponsors. Skin and hair care makes the perfect gifts.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, especially when it comes in all natural forms for Southside Beauty Care. Our gift boxes include natural and raw black soap from Africa, hair and beard oil that will make your hair strong and shiny, beard balm with essential oils such as cedarwood, hoe wood, and more to style that manscape on your face.
I could use that.
Our signature skincare cream designed to quench your skin's thirst and make it shine like Bruce Leroy in The Last Dragon.
Did you just show your age?
Get your box today at SouthsideBeautyCare.com.
No, man. They've been trying very, very hard to keep me out of this game. I just got one question. What you afraid of?
I think we're gonna be friends.
Hardly. You niggas never invited this boy to the party. Standing outside in the cold rain, looking through the window, see you turn it up like car keys. So low with the mind frame, but I came with my game, cause ain't a damn thing gon' change. Stayed in my lane, fry label pace, sippin' Dre, saying to myself what 8 years gon' change. So I focus on the game plan, to put them all on the knees like they're about to say amen. Gotta cry like Rayman, ain't a strange man, all I wanted was the screens for the bandstand. So I aim to get the stacks to the ceiling. When you hear this, you'll be feeling my story. I used to only want the money, but now I'm coming for the glory.
The clouds have opened up, and I've been seen in all of my glory. Suddenly, the clouds have opened up, and I've been seen in all of my glory. Suddenly,
So I aim to get the stacks to the ceiling. When you hear this, you be feeling my story. I used to only want the money, but now I'm coming for the glory. So I aim to get the stacks to the ceiling. When you hear this, you be feeling my story. I used to only want the money, but now I'm coming for the
We're gonna
glory.
be friends.
Remember that little scroll talking about what he's gonna do to obtain success. He was 10 toes down, made progress, while the congregation hated like Congress. I can't say I have a status, but Nipsey brought the hustle back, so now the bosses got this. We about the block back, can't stop that for the suburbs all the way to the projects. No longer treated like objects, tossed to the side, we glide, no matter with the weather. I remember living hard, so I have to stay fly, so baby, you fucking with a treasure. This ain't like a scary movie, the ending might just be a little bit gory. Nothing else is gonna stand in between me and glory.
We're gonna be friends.
the clouds have opened up, and I've been seen in all of my glory. Suddenly, the clouds have opened up, and I've been seen in all of my glory. Suddenly,
So I aim to get the stacks to the ceiling. When you hear this, you be feeling my story. I used to only want the money, but now I'm coming for the glory. So I aim to get the stacks to the ceiling. When you hear this, you be feeling my story. I used to only want the money, but now I'm coming for the
We're gonna
glory.
be friends.
My mom told me not to ever let these cowards play me. You lose it all in the blink of an eye. So true while they pointing at the white man, they planted on my back while holding a big knife. Now they're gonna need a crossbow, cause I need 50 feet before I take a seat. Back to the wall, no room for slipping. Let me see it all when it comes to take a G. There's no fakery, the money come fast, I can sell at the trap bakery. You could be kidding me, I'm still here to sweet lick like you some kind of candy man. This is for the time I spent. I know that baby out there is checking for me. I guarantee it's not me, but the glory.
We're gonna be friends.
the clouds have opened up, and I've been seen in all of my glory. Suddenly, the clouds have opened up, and I've been seen in all of my glory. Suddenly,
So I aim to get the stacks to the ceiling. When you hear this, you be feeling my story. I used to only want the money, but now I'm coming for the glory. So I aim to get the stacks to the ceiling. When you hear this, you be feeling my story. I used to only want the money, but now I'm coming for the
We're gonna
glory.
be friends.
BOSS, Southside Boss Radio.
BOSS Radio, Southside Bosses, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the talk show host or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of the site or the radio station, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. This site does not endorse anything as the truth. That you will have to judge for yourself. But we try to speak the truth on the owner's behalf and reserve the right to question the supposed truth. In this time of misinformation, government-controlled media, and government corruption, it is sometimes hard to get to the truth, but we must try. It is not our intention to libel, discriminate, make hate, or annoy anyone. We believe that it is our constitutional First Amendment right of free speech to voice our opinions and our duty to the Constitution and country to expose the truth. This site takes no responsibility for the opinions of others and the postings of comments in chat rooms or forum posts. Already, everybody, you already know what it is. This is your boy, Mr. E-Boss of the Southside Bosses, here on Revolutionary Hour, baby. You already know how we like to get down. So I hope y'all are ready with your pens and your paper. You're ready to take notes because we have a great speaker with us today. Goes by Talik El of the Moorish Science Temple of America by way of Mission 28 under the Supreme Grand Sheik Keith Dandridge El. How are you doing this afternoon, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to thank you for joining us because anytime we can have some knowledge that we can spread, we definitely want to get that knowledge spread, man. So first, before we even get started into the actual subject matter, I just want to, we want to get to know you a little better. We see that you're part of the Moorish Science Temple of America. How long have you been an active Moor?
I've been actually active for. Well, I could say this. I've been on this journey since 06 and 07. It was funny because prior I was more into the Kemetic and African strictly paradigm, that strict paradigm. And a friend of mine in Camden, New Jersey, I had met him the first time in a bookstore called La Unique.
Okay.
And I usually frequent that bookstore to buy some books. And at this point, this is not the first time I heard the prophecy of this belief. I heard a prophet of Mutali the first time at a church convention for youth. When I was younger, in my preteens, I was part of a youth ministry called Youth United under Bishop Willington Bone, and we had a retreat in Atlanta or Marietta, that area. Can you still hear me?
Oh, yes, sir. I can hear you clear.
Okay. Yeah. So we had this retreat, and they had this guy come in. His name, I can't remember his name, but the name of his ministry was called the Joshua Project. And the gist of his project was to provide urban, evangelize Christianity in the urban areas. So strategically, they would look into all the different belief systems that they could run into. And when they had a list of people of the systems and the origin and those who founded it, I noticed that the first one he had was the Moorish Science Temple of America. And he had a name Prophet Ali and stuff. Well, who is this guy? I heard of Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X. I knew about the five percenters. I'm from Burlington, New Jersey. I'm not too far from Trenton. The guys was all, they always frequently would come through my town and whatever on the low. But for the most part, I knew, that this guy, Noble Drew Ali, appeared to be the progenitors for a lot of spirituality in our community. So it stuck with my head because it was very interesting to me. And then later on in college, I revisited through studying about Marcus Garvey. And me and my friend of mine, Sean, we would go into the library on the campus. And this is at Rowan University. And, I used to, we would just play chess, and we would look at the Garvey documentary that they had, in the video portion of the library. And one day, my African American studies teacher, he had to write our term paper on the Jubilee era. And I chose to deal with the conscious thought at that time in the Jubilee era. And I ended up, while I was studying or about to write about Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali's name pops up in the bio, the information I found. So, well, there goes our name again. So, I then later, I had, in my college experience, I did pledge, and the organization that I joined was Group 5 Group Social Fellowship Incorporated. And I knew that after I was done my orientation that we would have to have some program. So where my heart was, I said, okay, well, I'm going to invite, all these different, I invited Umar to come, Umar Johnson, Dr. Umar, he came to, this is before he was a doctor. And I think he was freshly departed from the UNIA at the time, but I was able to get him to come to Rowan, speak on Garvey. I got Mbwele Shangi from the Ghetto Times to come speak. And then one other event I had a sister named Susan Dunbar Bay. She was part of Morris Science Central America under the leadership of R. Jones Bay. Okay? And I had looked her up and found out she had a local temple in Glassboro, which is the same town where Rowan. I invited her to come and speak about Noble Drew Ali and Morris Science Central America. And she handed me a little pamphlet and whatever information, and it kind of took me back on some of the stuff that they believe. I didn't pay no mind at that time. I was still on my journey. So later, fast forward up to my friend Martin in La Unique Bookstore. Comes to me, and when we first met, he starts to say, he asked me this question. He said, brother, you ever notice those old churches, with the dome built on top of them? I said, yeah. And he said, well, why do you think those domes are on top of the churches? And I just looked at him, like, I don't know.
Right.
And he was like, what do you think, why do you think they have them? Well, what do you usually see domes on top of buildings? I said, Muslims, he said, the Moors. He said, the Moors, brother. Right, that's how he talked.
Right.
And he's so-called, you consider him Puerto Rican. You would consider him Puerto Rican. And Martin was like, yeah, brother. He said, who do you think built those? I was like, he said, the Moors built them, brother. You did. Don't you know you're a Moor? I was like, what? I said, brother, how am I a Moor? And he said, well, he said, because you're not black, so long, that's not who you are. Who called you black? And I said, I wasn't sure. He gave you that name. He said, look, and he started going into other stuff about the Social Security and all that. That's where I first came into being actively studying the Moorish paradigm. Now, I know it's not distinctly the Moorish paradigm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's the Moorish Divine National, and there's the Moorish paradigm. A lot of people are a part of the Moorish paradigm. The Moorish paradigm is just the way of thinking.
Right.
Okay? It's just a thinking that rotates around or is orientated around the idea of being a Moor. Okay, the Moorish paradigm doesn't necessarily have a distinct agenda, in a sense, or a action plan or steps for freedom. It's just whatever's out there that you can get over on, or you can use to get by with, grab it and use it. And that's where I came in at. My first organization I actually joined was the Washington, under via Dr. Aleem Albay.
Right.
And the brother actually knows, we know each other personally. We grew to have a good relationship for a while. I consider that brother my first teacher on like metaphysics and, information and stuff, because I would call him a lot and talk to him. And then, after that, I joined the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, which is still under, it wasn't exactly under Dr. Aleem, but it was under his comrade at the time, Brother Darbe and Jelani Bay. And from there, I had joined after that. Well, I was still part of that, but a situation had occurred where, I felt I needed something more tangible. Well, I thought whatever I needed tangible that was still centered around, this sovereignty idea, right? But I ended up joining a group called the Mexican Empire.
Right.
So from there, learning certain things was it was a very interesting experience, but it felt, after a while, it came to the idea that it felt very like it was still running into place and not really making any real progress.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like dealing with basic steps to get to point A, point B, point C. There was a lot of over embellished, flash in the pan, stuff like that. So
Right.
I fell back from that, and I went back to the Moorish Holy, and this is where it got interesting, because when I went on a Sheik conference call for the Sheiks, because I was considered the Grand Sheik at the time. Notice I didn't have no temple, I didn't have no members. You know what I'm saying? They just called me a Grand Sheik, but that was the case for a lot of them. They were Grand Sheiks in the Moorish Holy, but they didn't have no temple, they didn't have no members. They weren't bringing nobody in like that. They didn't have any attitude. So what was funny was, at this point, because I had discussed with Adar Bey about what rightfully gives the Moorish Holy the authority to exist. And he went through the whole thing, how there's a guy named Hamid Anderson L. Brother Hamid Anderson L. was an elder who actually was part of the company during the time of Prophet Nabi Ali. He was actually made an adept at the age of 19, which was not unpeculiar for the Prophet to make young adepts. Matter of fact, he had children that were actually adepts.
Right.
At the time.
Right, he did.
At the time of his flesh. So, what was very interesting was he always broke down how Hamid and had gave him a charter under the Moorish Holy. He remembered Hamid and El remembered everything, all the marquees at his time staying Moorish Holy. Then, we kind of came to a consensus amongst the Moorish Holy that there was no censorship. That, it was all, it was all up in the air. Everybody was just grabbing for power. Which was contradictory to certain things, because I had gotten letters, I had gotten, I think Jelani had been a a Word document that was supposed to be like the Moorish literature.
New message.
And some of the inserts in there was from Edward Millier. Okay. So I heard this thing before, I've seen it before, but because nobody actually spoke about this man, it didn't resonate with my conscience of who he was. That was significant. According to these inserts, supposedly he was supposed to be successful. But my mind was so bent on the fact that nobody, I couldn't digress, or not, I think I couldn't mentally or consciously digest it, you know, to be aware of, you know, that's who he was, and that was the station. So, back to the point of when I came back to be active with the Moorish Holy, I was on the Sheik call, and Adar had made the announcement to everybody that supposedly we're going to go under the leadership of David Daley. Now, I heard of David Daley before here because I'm also a member of I'm a member of the Moridia Sufi of the Sheik of the Bummer. I joined in 08. I took my day out in 08 with Sheik Leithu and my good brother, Brother Sufi. At the time, he was Brother Sufi. Those are Sheik Sufi now. But that's still my brother. I call him Brother Sufi. But at the time, you know, I had met a brother named Shallow in New York. And I told him I was interested in Simple Still, and he gave me Bailey's number. I had called Bailey one time to talk to him, and it was like a decent conversation, but it wasn't like that. And he said he was going to send me something. You know, I never got back to him and gave him my address. I told him so briefly, I didn't realize who I was talking. You know, now fast forward when he said Bailey, when he said Bailey Ill in the conversation, you know, I was like, hold on. And then he said, Mo. I said, okay, wait. I actually spoke up on a call, and I said, wait a minute. I thought we had the consensus. We all understood. We all hold to the fact that there is no successorship. Why are we going under this one?
Right.
And he said, Mo, Bailey Ill has the original charter. I said, okay, well, and he's the grandson of Emil Year. I was like, huh? I still didn't understand it at first. So, and he said, Mo, he took one of his offices or his sheiks is in Philadelphia, not too far from you, because I stay in Camden. It was right over the bridge. And I said, who's that? He said, Shiloh. I said, oh, I know Shiloh. I know. Oh, he's still officer? He said, yeah. So Shiloh was frequent. Shiloh was, when he came to stay in Philly, he would come to what they call the Dawah. The Dawah is a Sufi school or a collective where you study mainly the teachings of one Sheik. Okay?
Right.
Supposedly it was supposed to be a Sheik Leithu about it. Right? That's a whole nother story. But for the most part, I came under. I would go visit. That day, I was looking for Shiloh. Shiloh was there teaching. Sharp brother, very eloquent, spoken brother. He knows the lesson. He breaks down the lesson of Surin Tuba and Sheik of the Islam, with different historical points. He, very well studied individual. And I went and I approached him, and I told him I was interested in joining the temple, and so forth, so on. Via Adar Bey, he told us to go under. And he said, "Oh, that's cool," because he pointed to his brother named Elijah, who I already knew. Elijah was pretty cool. Elijah was already in the process, joining and starting a temple in Philly.
Right.
And I ended up teaming up with Elijah, and we started studying. And now this is around 2012, 2013. Okay, so prior to that, I knew about the Moors. I was into the Moors paradigm, but I never really got the full core teaching of the Prophet until I sat down with Shiloh, and we would be at UPenn/Drexel bookstore in West Philly. They had like a nice little bookstore library. We'd be there, and he would just delve into the Quran and question it, and he would connect it to Islam. And he would show like everybody who has a copy of the more or the questionnaire don't realize how potent the back of that questionnaire is and what's on it. Like,
Oh yeah.
it's so powerful. It's so to this movement. People don't understand. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of people are talking about proclaiming a nationality, but what are you proclaiming it to? Where is your body politic? Where is your government that represents you, that advocates for you? The Prophet put that together. That affidavit symbolizes that is a society, a group, which is considered a dual society, which is a body politic. You can't take it away. You can't extract that from that meaning and saying that it's not. I don't care who says what it is. You don't need to go to anyone or whatever just to prove that you are. It's on paper.
Right.
It is a dual society. You know, the way it was formed.
Right.
Under the law, the Hers Advisory Act, it was formed. Under the Religious Corporation Act, it was formed in that way.
Now-
There's intricate things that people don't know about the filing and different other extended affidavits and forms that come with it that Cook County has. That actually, you know what I'm saying, that actually in the subtitle of these affidavits, which I've seen because, our administration has those, it tells you and it shows you in the wording that that these are officials that represent the organization, the way it's laid out is evidence of a dual society. And the Prophet set this up, and he set it up under, when he said, we derive our power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad. Right? That's significant. Because at the time, this is 1928, right? When he does this. In 1935, the U.S. government recognized at this point Prophet Muhammad as a lawgiver and the Quran as a book of law.
Right.
It's 7-year duration, from 1928 to 1935.
Now a lot of
recognized Prophet Muhammad. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, but like a lot of people don't even know what nationality even is, especially when you speak to people who are the so-called black men and black women of the United States. You ask them what their nationality is, and they can't give you one. It is obvious for obvious reasons. We know why. But if you had to explain nationality to somebody in the most basic manner, how would you go about doing that?
Okay. Well, first let me apologize to everyone. So first, if I got ahead of myself. I need to humble myself a little bit.
No, you good.
Give my salutations first. First, giving a humble praise to Allah, Father of the universe. Call this cause of Israel. Arise, and I give high honors to all the prophets, Jesus Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius. Rise and give them special honors, Prophet Muhammad Rise, and I give honors to his forerunner, Marcus Rubeyard. Rise and give honors to the more scientific American. Rise and give honors to leadership, first appointed Supreme Grand Chief over near the air, down to the current Supreme Grand Chief, the Fizz Station. be dangerous to your lives. To be honest, each and every one of you hear this. I want to say that nationality, from its basic understanding, is your allegiance. Your allegiance to a nation or a national group.
Okay.
That's your nationality. Like, for some people have nationality, but that particular group that they have allegiance to may not be a full-fledged nation in comparison to like China, so forth. Like it gets complicated when you do something.
Right.
Basically, your allegiance to a nation. You belong to a nation. If you read the actual definition, it's having the character of belonging to the nation. The character not necessarily means your behavior, but also your appearance. How do you look? How do you talk? What is the cultures that come with this nationality? What are your principles that you hold? With this nationality. It's not just you having an identity, but it's the identity that comes with a particular character, a particular lifestyle. That distinguishes you from everyone else.
Okay. And what would you say to people? Because that's you can't break that down any better than that. The way that you broke down what nationality actually is, but you got a lot of people that actually would answer, like the people who have some inkling of nationality. They'll answer, well, my nationality is African American. Can you explain to us how problematic that proves to be?
Right. Well, African American, the recent identity as far as probably 30 years back in the 80s. It doesn't necessarily connect you to a specific government or identity that distinguishes you. Far as giving you a history, far as giving you a position in this society in America, because it's a generic label, and it's still synonymous with black, which is the first, or it's black, Negro, black. These terms were given during slavery.
Right.
These terms were given during slavery. You weren't known by African American, which is the narrative for African American is, we don't know where we're from distinctly, but we know we came from Africa. Okay, so it's still blanking, because if you look on the SF 181 form and distinguishing races, it's synonymous with black. Okay? African American doesn't distinguish you and doesn't tie you to a specific history. It just says, okay, we still brought you over from Africa on a slave ship, right? And that's not necessarily the full narrative of our existence in America.
Exactly.
Right. And the important is that you want to correct the narrative so you can put things in its proper place, so you can correct your status. Okay, status is not just a one-easy thing. People want, I'm going to correct my status. I'm going to correct my status. You correct your status in several different ways. It's your political allegiance, your social involvement, and your economic status. If your status will never be changed to a higher or more respected one, if you still live in certain areas, you still have certain behaviors and certain patterns, if you're not changing your status economically, if you're not changing your status socially, and your involvement in the voting power and those types of things, and you do not tie yourself to a group that has a status or has the potential to bring your status change, then you basically cannot change your status, you know. So a lot of people have to understand it's not an easy thing. Just okay, well, I change, you know, it's not like a 1-2 thing. I just fill this thing out and now my status change. Not. It's a whole different thing process that goes with it. You know what I'm saying? Because you're talking about, you know, people who, you know, groups of people whose status is changed, you know, it's through their involvement in society, in American society, through their voting power, through their economic, through, you know, their social endeavors that they do. You know, that's how they change this thing. Like the Jews, I think one problem with Moors, in a sense, you know, brothers and sisters in the paradigm, I say the Moorish paradigm, not the Moorish divine action movement, is that they still feel that this is an individual thing. Even though they know that, you know, they want everybody to come together, they think, but you still move an individual. Even if you have a group, your group is still perpetuating individualism and not necessarily collective. The collective is actually, you change your status as your involvement in American society. You know what I'm saying? If you stay excluded from it, you know, you can't necessarily just have them respect you. You know what I'm saying? You can't gain that particular role that you want to play in America, or you know, in a sense, because you're not necessarily being active in the manner that you want to. You know what I'm saying? So we look at the you know, we look at what the prophet did. You know, he was purging voting. He had people who were very prominent involved in the country. You know what I'm saying? So what happens with, you know, those in the, you know, out there in the paradigm, they still have the individual. They don't understand it's a collective. Their status is going to change with the collective.
Right.
You know, with your collective. That's how your status changes, not individual. You know, not individual. So, but nationality, it's a step in changing your status, because nationality changes your identity. Now it gives you a distinctive identity. It changes the narrative for you in American society. Right? When people talk about the 14th Amendment, 14th Amendment. Okay. Well, Prophet Nabi said, there's no need. I mean, the 14th Amendment is not necessary. 14th and 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people as American citizens.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly. I believe that it was already covered in the Declaration of Independence, where it said that all men shall be created equal. It's already established right then and there.
Absolutely. So what is being said, he's saying is that the narrative, if you stick with the true narrative, it is not necessary, because, like you said in the Declaration of Independence, all men should be equal. You know what I'm saying? And we were included in that.
Right.
According to Chief Justice Curtis. We were included. If you go into the opinion, Abraham Lincoln's philosophy of common sense.
Right.
I believe it's page 510. I talk about this a lot because it's so key. And I'm gonna read it. I have it right here with me. And this is Abraham Lincoln going in, quoting, he cites what Chief Justice Curtis said. And I'm going to read it. Yeah. This challenges Taney's historical fact. Curtis challenges Tanny's historical facts. Because, Tanny was like, he was more. People have to understand, when you read certain things historically from, like, certain historical figures, you got to know you have to realize or recognize they're already opinion or where they stand as far as our people and different things in history. So you'll know that a lot of times when they speak, it's not always fact, and it's not always concrete, the concrete gospel, because a lot of times they may be coming from their prejudice. Okay? And a lot of people don't understand that. So when they look, they say 13th Amendment. 13th Amendment was a racist amendment.
Yes.
The senator from Delaware, he was a racist. So that's why in the other, they're talking about the missing 22 section, or missing 20 section. Those missing 20 sections was some ratchet racist sections.
Exactly.
That were not in the favor of us. So this is why they never got ratified. You understand? But some people go off the 20 sections. They think, they really hold. No, you don't want those. You don't really want those 20 sections to be passed. You should be happy they never passed.
Right.
All right. So, but back to this point right here, it says challenging any historical fact. I have said in substance that Dred Scott's decision was, in part, based on assuming historical facts, which were not really true. And I ought not leave the subject without giving some reasons for saying it. I therefore give an instant or two that I think fully sustained. Chief Justice Rainey is delivering the majority opinion of the court. It's at great length that Negroes were no part of the people who made or for whom was made the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. On the contrary, Judge Curtis, in his dissenting opinion, shows that in 5 of then 13 states, to wit, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina, free Negroes were voters, and in proportion to their number, had the same part in making the Constitution with the white people had.
Right.
He shows this with so much particularity as to leave no doubt of its truth. And as a short conclusion on that point holds the following language. This is in quotation. Is Curtis. Chief Justice Curtis. He says this. Now, what I just read was the words of Abraham Lincoln. Okay. So this is Judge Curtis. He says, the Constitution was ordained and established by the people of the United States through the action of each state of those persons who are qualified by its laws to act thereon in behalf of stuff in all states of the state. In some of the states, we have seen colored persons were among those qualified by law to act on the subject. Those colored persons were not only included in the body of the people of the United States. Read that again. These colored persons were not only included in the body of the people of the United States, by whom the Constitution was ordained and established, but in at least 5 of the states. They had the power to act, and doubtless did act, by their suffrages upon the question of its adoption. Again, Chief Justice Stanley says, it is difficult at this day to realize the state of public opinion in relation to that unfortunate race, talking about us, the Tanny now, which prevailed in the civilized and enlightened portions of the world. At the time of the Declaration of the Independence, now this is very key, brother. This is very key. I want the audience to hear about what's being said by Tanny. Okay? Because Tanny just subconsciously dropped a bombshell. He said And I'm going to rewind. He says, it is difficult at this day to realize state of public opinion in relation to that unfortunate race. No more unfortunate race.
Wow.
Which prevailed in the civilized and enlightened portions of the world at the time of the Declaration of Independence. Who was civilized, enlightened portions of the world? He was saying we prevailed in the civilized, enlightened portions. Who? It was the Moors.
Exactly.
He connected us right there. He just gave the connection right there. He probably didn't even know what that he said.
Right.
And it continues. And when the Constitution of the United States was framed and adopted, and again, after quoting from the Declaration, he said, the general words are quoted, they seem to include the whole human family, and if they were used in similar instrument of this day, would be so understood. Okay, so it shows you, and it tells you as evidence that our people were included in Declaration of Independence and Constitution. We were involved. We were involved in the framing of this nation. Now people say, we talk about our people, this nation was built on our back, da 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 da. We usually refer to slavery. No, we're not just saying, this is literally built on every part. Not just the building, not just the roads, not just the crops and the economics of slavery, but also the actual intellectual, the administrative, governmental framework. We were heavily involved. We had a part. We were there. The problem happened is when particular, I would say, our particular counterpart, European counterpart,
Right.
they became fearful. It became fearful of our position and who we were. Because, mind you, this is only 200 years, 300 years at this time, out of Moorish, the complete Moorish domination of the world.
Right.
When the United States was coming alive, the Moors had fell, and there was just, people just salvaging, nations that were salvaging territory. Morocco was on a decline. Algiers was on the decline. Tunis was on the decline. Even though they had power as the dominion in certain areas,
Right.
they technically were still on a decline.
And I find it very, I don't mean to cut you off, but I do find it very, for lack of a better word, funny that the February of the same year that the land of America was so-called discovered by Christopher Columbus is when the Moors actually fell in Tripoli, the final stronghold. Like that, a lot of people don't see that coincidence and can't connect those two dots. Like, can you expound a little bit about that?
Well, what people want to research, they want to research the compilation of Spain. The compilation thing. And that goes into detail of the fall and the change of the regime. At the time, Granada was the last stronghold in Andalusia, or what they now call Spain.
Right.
Abdel, Boabdil, sorry, I said Abdel. Boabdil was the one who actually turned over or surrendered, to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel. But there was another guy that's not talking about. Isagal was actually a relative of Boabdil. He also was involved. Where it's also documented about what is said specifically important about Isabel is he actually had the drawn out deed or written deed for the land in America. See, this is why Christopher Colon knew about it. You know, Christopher Columbus or Christopher Colon, he was actually a mercenary. Don't say he was a book collector, but no, he was a mercenary. He knew about, the Moors. He knew about it. They had deeds, they had land maps over in America. That's why they knew to come to America. Isabel, he basically surrendered the over to, Elizabeth, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. He gave up so they knew to come over. And that's why, you have to follow. One thing you have to do, what people have to do is, wherever Spain has settled, that's where territories and Moors have in America.
Right.
That's the territories the Moors have in America. Wherever they first settled. Okay. Of course, through time, they actually gave their settlements up to either the Dutch, German, or England, Britain, and so forth. But whenever they first settled, that's where the Moors are. You usually see a pattern from up and down the East Coast. A lot of Moors, the Moorish paradigm, not the Moors in the Divine movement, they actually feel, or they come to this conclusion that the whole United States is ran by the Moors. That's very true. Especially under the banner of Morocco. Nah, it wasn't. It wasn't under the banner of Morocco. Right? So people got to read chapter 47. Again, you have to study that chapter. Study. A lot of people just read it and not study.
Right.
When you're talking about different migration of Asiatic people from the land of Canaan, those type of places in Africa that came over, to America. Different migration. You had a grand dominion, and you had a dominion, right? A dominion usually has a political, or it has a authoritative authorization from a government, and you have a dominion over something, right? And then when you have an habitation, that's just you happen to be there. You have it there. It's not necessarily politically ran, doesn't have a government behind. It's just a group of people. So those two key words, when you read chapter 47 in the Holy Quran of Moor Science of America, when you see the word dominion and inhabitant, it's telling you about two conditions regarding America. There's the dominions and inhabitants. Okay? So what happens is you transition from a dominion to inhabitant, you don't have that same authority. Understand that you claim. So people with flags and they come about, this is Morocco. And you're totally historically incorrect. On a lot of levels. You have to be correct on what you're examining, because when it became a habitation, I mean, when you get to travel, all these different native tribes and stuff like that who are here. And at that point, that's where the condition was when the United States is being formed. You had existence of different tribal families and tribal nations that inhabited different areas and lands of America. And we weren't all together, and that's what I'm trying to tell people, when I teach. I say, you realize we were not all one people.
Right.
In a sense where we all collectively were together, we weren't. We were infighting. There was stuff let's take the Lenape for. I'm not speaking on, disrespecting anyone's tribe, because I respect the Lenape, because I'm from New Jersey, and I respect the, Lenape and everything. But for the most part, they weren't together on a lot.
Right.
There were some of them who were working with the Europeans to come to a common ground, they agreed to take Delaware as their state in this newly formed union. And there was the other lobby was like, we ain't going for it. Nah. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, we ain't doing this. There's some that was with it and some wasn't with it. It's like, you done push this out west, you done push this out further south. We ain't with this. And some were just trying to, work it. Like, this natives, like I said, there was natives that were trying to work with the European, and there was some that was just like, I ain't dealing with it. And then there's some that was in cahoots with it.
Right.
But the ones that were trying to overturn everything. And some was like, look, you let us do this, we'll give you this push. And then they ended up getting screwed at the end, for lack of better words. They got played, But for the most part, this is how twisted this narrative is. Not a straight-laced story. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of plot and twist to this history.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, you're looking for the straight lace, and it's not straight lace. This thing is very twisted. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's a lot of curves and schemes that went on because where are we at now? You know what I'm saying? That's why some people can't even trace their native heritage because there's so much stuff that happened, from that time point. And then people can't recognize who they are. And some people just guess. A lot of people who claim vision, some are just guessing. They haven't done the work. They haven't done the footwork to actually trace the stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they can't say they follow the pop. They trace it though. You know what I'm saying? He said mastermind the tracing stuff back. Let you know, right? And that goes twofold. You can trace yourself naturally when we talk about your lineage. But also, that's a high spiritual teaching too. Because if you're a mastermind, you can trace yourself back all the way to the beginning of your existence. To the beginning of, to where you came from, which is Allah.
Right.
That's what a mastermind is. Consciously go back to his mind, his or her mind, back to her true essence and form.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people, there's one thing about a lot of people, a lot of situations that we tend to dilute these lessons to just a mundane portion. And because now you gotta understand that principles you can apply to a natural or more of a natural contemporary setting or situation, but the high value is applied spiritually. So if I say to regain your lost vast state, I'm not talking about a land. I'm not talking about physical land. I'm saying your vast estate is your position as Lord over the plane of soul and the plane of things made manifest. That's your vast estate. You know what I'm saying? Like, this universe and its plane and its paradigm should be something that you're able to navigate without trouble or problem. You know what I'm saying? Because your mind, your conscious mind has been, trained not to be submissive to your nature, your fleshly nature and stuff like that, or your worries and your insecurities, these type of things that you develop, since childhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to master those. You know what I'm saying? Your faults, your doubts, your guilt, all those things you have to overcome. You know what I'm saying? They actually have or become mastermind or regain your lost master state. You know what I'm saying? People looking for land as lost master state. Like, this land can shift anytime. You know what I'm saying? The land can be ripped under.
Right.
From a vast earthquake. What you want to do? You still want to claim it? Like, the fault, it's like so many fault lines in America that, especially California, it could be shaken with one massive earthquake and ripped asunder from this land mass.
Right.
You still want to, that's still part of your estate now? Like, like how do you do that? Like, it's always shifting. The globe is always shifting. You know what I'm saying? When you look at it, like, you still focusing on, land, and that's the win all, the end all be all, that's the lesson. But I kind of digress. I'm sorry. But for the most part, the history, as Native history and just the history here of us being here is very, it's not straightly. Moors, for the most part, those who are Moors weren't always in tie with Morocco. You had some Moors who came from Tripoli, you had some Moors are from Algiers, the different regions, parts of Africa. And then you had some Moors that came from Europe. And they mostly identify with the immediate European nation that they came through. So you have Moors that were German, you have Moors that were Dutch, you have Moors that were French, or under the they came over to America. You have Moors that were Welsh, there were Moors that were Irish. And under this harsh circumstances, now I'm starting to see the more, like they're talking about the Europeans were persecuted in Europe for religious beliefs and stuff like that, and they came to America, right, for being Protestants and stuff, right?
Right.
They weren't the only ones being put. Yeah, they were Protestants, but the real persecuted people in Europe were our people. We had to go under the disguise of Christianity in different European nations to keep our traditions alive, to be Muslims, to be Jews, Sephardic Jews. And when we came to America, we had to keep in different territories. We had to keep that identity. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really practicing Islam. I'm not practicing Judaism. This is where you're Salem witch trials, your witch hunts.
Right.
Because they found out some of the brothers and sisters actually were Moor or Muslim. You know what I'm saying? Right? Or they were Sephardic Jews and they had spiritual practice. And they said, well, I saw them do this and that. So what happens is the same behavior that went on during the Inquisition and the hunt that were going on with Moors, it carried over. You had a carried over behavior into America by the same Europeans. They saw it and they began to carry on that same behavior. You understand? So it was, okay, what is she doing? What is he doing? Anybody who was practicing anything that was outside of the Protestant religion, like, you would be persecuted. So in secret, Moors would have to, practice their faith and their belief private, right? So they would, avoid persecution in America. Moors had to couldn't travel in certain areas. Native Americans couldn't travel in certain areas with certain European groups. Because the Europeans weren't all civilized that came over here. They tried to make it like, you see, the pilgrims, they're all quiet, they're all humble and meek, and they're just glad to be over here. They, can you help us teach us how to farm? We don't know how to, so forth and so on. And, that's not even there. Because some of the people that came over here were the poor, the tribes, the criminals.
Criminal. Exactly.
They were sent over, and they didn't stay, serving their sentence too long. After they came over, they spent a few years, and they were able to do whatever they wanted to do. And some of them they gathered in certain areas, and this is how they pushed a lot of Native Americans out of the way. It wasn't just, okay, get up and leave, y'all gotta go. Now, it wasn't that. It was a lot of savagery.
Right.
Native Americans couldn't go different places. A lot of our people couldn't go different places because they would either get ravished or even eaten.
Exactly.
And they get literally ate. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why, like, it's not a coincidence that you have, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and all these different people. Serial killers, people who. This is a passed down
culture. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the culture, and a lot of people don't know it. It's a passed down culture, and they know it.
Yep.
And they try, and a lot of people looking at it. Oh, this guy, he done flipped. He just went crazy, and he just started eating people. Oh, why do you think Dahmer chose brothers to eat? You like them the most.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Why? Because it was a tradition, something he learned. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like a lot of people think, oh, he's crazy. They got they had the movie where he had to taste blood for a little bit, and he got turned on because he tasted a little blood, and now he goes, no.
That was just for the movie.
He actually chose. It was just for the movie. The truth of the matter is, man was calculated, and he knew, and he probably was studying a cannibalism, and he was studying, some of these people are intelligent. Remember Hannibal from Gaza, man. He was a professor. He was intelligent. He's telling you that these people are intelligent. They know what they're looking for when they're searching to devour somebody. And this is a tradition that was handed down from one time of Europeans that they used to eat. And they knew what to eat because there's certain glands, certain organs and stuff like that actually, that actually give certain life nutrients and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? To people, So, this was carried on and practiced during these times of colonialism. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Remember when I read. Go ahead, yes, sir.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, because we was talking about passed down culture, that kind of reminded me of something that you said when you were speaking about the native tribes that was here, like the Lenape. They was like, you had some that were trying to help the Europeans, and then you had some that just wanted to run them away, and you had a lot of infighting. Well, you can kind of see that passed down culture still exists today amongst black people, where you have the Crips and the Bloods and all these gangs, and even inside of Crips, you have Crips that fight of the Crips, you have Bloods that fight of the Bloods. It seems like that culture was passed down throughout the time. Even though we lost our identity and gained new identity, we still had that same mentality, still had that same culture. Now, with that being said, do you think that is part of the Moorish paradigm? Not necessarily the Moorish divine movement, national movement, like you said, these are two totally different things. But do you think that is part of the Moorish paradigm, to where the tribes that used to have infighting, we still doing that today up under the black label?
Yeah. It's under all of you had division, remember I said the first group I joined was Washington. I didn't find out till these years ago they had so many divisions within the Washington. So many people broke away and started their own Washington people. Temple is a prime example. Probably started off with one temple organization. And he made one person the custodian over there to be the custodian after he passed, and that's what really is. But for everybody else, majority of the people that you find are Moorish American. They're under John Gabriel, they're under Turpin Day, they're under German Day, they're under Timothy Dinglewell, Richard Dinglewell, they're under this one and that one. They're Prophet Destiny, or they're Greasefield, all these different Moorish groups, and a lot of people want unity. Like, I told, this past Prophet celebration, I had the opportunity. A good sister and member, Sister Nicola, invited me to New York. She wanted to have a Prophet celebration in Queens, and I went to New York, and I knew, and I suspected I was around a lot of brothers who were affiliated with the Great Seal out of New York, whether they were direct members or they got affiliation. Even amongst them there was division, because you had some who were more, supposedly there's a group in Queens who are more, West Indies, Jamaican, and they keep a lot of stuff to themselves. They navigate mainly amongst themselves. Even though they got the information from the brothers here in America, they work amongst themselves.
Right.
But we were all together. We were all together at the same place, whatever, talking and whatever. But I told the brothers there. I told them then, and Taj's son was there, Hannibal was there, and he was in another room talking. But I told the brothers in the room, I said, look, we can all work together. We can work together. I represent the company. I said, look, but I guarantee you, we gonna argue.
Oh yeah.
We are gonna argue. We are not gonna agree on a lot of stuff. I'm gonna let you know. We're not, because I said, we're not budging on what we feel. And I'm not trying to get you to budge on yours, but we need a common ground, find out what we can do, what we can do to do what's common, Eventually, after that meeting, a couple times I'm coming on our call, they came to the conclusion that they didn't want to move forward with trying to, ride with us, because the whole thing was being pushed for them to actually come under the company. Here's the thing, Grayscale, Pocket Destiny, even some of these, Rise No More, all these different groups, they claim to push Noble Raleigh. They claim to respect Noble Raleigh, but they are far from the actual. They're far from his laws. They're far off from his laws. They're far off from actually knowing what the prophet actually laid off. And anytime a correction is given, anytime a redirection is given, and it doesn't line up, with their perception of what truth is and everything, then it becomes an issue for them.
Right.
And it becomes an issue for them. And they don't want to move forward. I'm not trying to stand past judgment, because why I can say this, brother, is because I was there. I did not agree with the temple. I did not agree. I didn't, and I claimed that I respected Louis Raleigh, but I didn't really respect him. Because I didn't really study him. I only studied him through a particular lens. I didn't study him with no lens. I had, when I came to the temple, I had to take the lens off.
Right.
And actually look at what I was seeing, and then allow it to talk to me. You know what I'm saying? When I say talk to me, I mean allow my mind to actually process this from a pure basis. And now I understand what the prophet is saying, what he wants, what his intentions were. You understand? So a lot of the brothers and sisters who were rolling with Light Theory, rolling with, who have rolled with Jamal, who rolling with Taj, who rolling with Abdullah, rolling with all these different groups and these different people, Sharon, Tracy Gale, who's rolling with these people. Consequent, they don't understand the prophet of God, and they have to stop looking at it from an individual lens. They have to take their individual lens off and look at the prophet's words and lessons from a pure space. Empty their cup. And that's the thing. It's like a lot of people don't want to empty their cup, because as soon as it sounds like I'm giving jurisdiction to the United States Embassy, red flag. They don't want to deal with it. Anytime I say about obeying the law, I talk about right to travel, and I say that, there really is no such thing in the context of what you're saying, what right to travel is, there's a red flag. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you don't understand the law. Like, you have private and public. If you're driving a vehicle on public road, you're subject to the public law. That's it. If you had your own private road and your private vehicle, you're fine. You know what I'm saying? You can't, you're good. You don't have to you have your own laws. There's a video I watched. I forgot the name of these videos, but it's dealing with the law. It come up on Facebook TV, and there's this one sister. She was an Amazon driver. She was delivering, and she was speeding down. This long driveway to this guy's house to make this delivery. She made the delivery, and she speeded back out. She speeded back out, I guess. But the guy chased it in his car, and he blocked her from leaving the driveway. And he calls the police, right? Calls the police on her because he said she was driving, she was speeding down his driveway, and basically wants her to get a ticket or whatever. He's basically blocking her from leaving, right? This is definitely this is what law is. Law is not straight at all. Law is definitely tricky. So the overall problem was this. Even though that's his private property, and she couldn't really be, she shouldn't spare down his driveway. The police couldn't really enforce it, that particular issue. Okay? You couldn't enforce that particular issue because that's private property. Understand? Now, only thing that could probably do if he actually made a complaint and filed a lawsuit. You know what I'm saying? File a lawsuit against her or whatever. And say, hey, leave down my driveway. And then maybe a judge could have, spoken on the issue. But the problem was, is what the police could have enforced, is that the owner of that property was impeding on the right of the delivery girl from leaving. Basically, you were holding her up. You know what I'm saying? Like, she didn't commit any crime, really.
Correct.
She was going a little too fast in your property, but she didn't damage any property. She didn't damage your property. She didn't cause any harm. You had no right to really hold her hot.
Right.
All you could have done, you really should have done is filed a complaint.
Exactly.
Call Amazon, and blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? So people have to understand law. And a lot of times, you don't understand private and public law. And that's the thing that governs. The prophet, when he set up the organization, he put us on the private. This is why in his writing, when he said in the I think his message to the governors, or the governors or chiefs and the government officials, he said, any property acquired, put it under my name or the temple. That protects it from all the public involvement.
Right. That's for the trust, that falls up under trust law.
Exactly, the trust law. And I'll tell you this. I'm going to tell y'all a secret. I'm very secret. You know what I'm saying? People thinking he's all immaculate. You got one more. He's looking for the trust. Everybody looking for the trust that the prophet left. You know what I'm saying? It's trust. There's a whole book. I got this book. Brother who's Frank L. Bay. I bought the book. And it's a whole bunch of stuff he was put in there. Only one conversation I had with Bailey Hill. And he told me. And I said, Bailey Hill, I said, these Moors out here talk about this, the trust. Did the prophet need a trust? The more, Bailey Hill said, boy, the temple's the trust.
I was just finna say that. Yeah, that's
the law.
Right.
It's common sense. It's not a masterful secret. It's not a secret that you gotta, you gotta learn. And you know what I'm saying? It's not no suspenseful,
yeah. Like,
it's simple.
In a way, like you're right. Like with the prophet leaving a trust in the temple, that isn't a secret. That like there's some kind of a more secret or anything like that. Where the secret comes in at is that people don't know how trust work. They haven't been taught exactly how. Just not just the Moors, not just Noble Drew Ali's trust, but people don't know they could go create their own trust. They don't know they could create their own what is it? I'm lacking a word right now, because I used to I as a paralegal I learned this, and I used to teach this as well, how to be able to get, because a lot of people for one, this is an example, a UIL, a universal index life insurance, that cannot be touched by the government, period. You cannot, it's not subject to probate. IRS can't take it, none of that. And this is how you protect your assets, by implementing them into that UIL, aka a trust. But a lot of people, they hear these things and they think that they're mystical. They think that they're, just some kind of a magic loophole, when in all actuality, it's not a loophole. It's just how life is supposed to be.
Yes, and these are just instruments that a lot of people, there's a lot of people know, certain people know who have financial gains to protect. Okay?
Exactly.
Financial gains to protect. You know what I'm saying? If, Lucretia and Leander, who live in the backwoods or living in a complex, project complex, you know what I'm saying, with their mama, you ain't really got much asset to protect.
At all.
You know what I'm saying, to really put in anything. You know what I'm saying? So all you Moors jumping in here on Facebook, all that talking about trust and all this, all you got is your phone. You know what I'm saying? Only thing
you're not showing a good example.
You know what I'm saying? In your PlayStation, you know what I'm saying? Your PS5, you ain't got much asset to really put in the truck. You know what I'm saying? That's why I talk about planning. You got to really change your financial game.
Exactly.
You got to own a business. You got to do these things, and then you probably put these things in the truck. You know what I'm saying? If you ain't got nothing, then what you doing trying to set up a truck? I ain't got no trust, because I don't have nothing at this moment really valuable to put in at this point in time. You know what I'm saying? But we're working on some things. We're working on starting businesses. You know what I'm saying? Putting together some things for the community, out here in this area. But for the most part, I'm not going to mess with a trust until I start to gain assets. And that's what you're supposed to put in. That's what you're supposed to put in. Don't be talking about you got no trust. You ain't got nothing.
You have nothing. You're borrowing it.
You don't have nothing. Yeah, you're borrowing everything, basically. That's what you're doing. You're really just borrowing everything that you have. You know what I'm saying? Like, control, own nothing, control everything. You're doing that right now.
Right.
Control your cell phone, control your car. You know what I'm saying? Unless you bought your car from somebody who, just said, just give me, if your car's paid for, you know what I mean? And then somebody just sells it to you, and you get the title and deed, whatever. Yeah, that's what it is. You own your car. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you have to have a title. Yes, you have to have it registered and all that in order to navigate on the public roads. To go down your street, take it off your private property, and take it off your property and navigate it to the store and back. You got to have a registered license, blah blah blah, because you're engaging in the public venue.
Now I do want to go. I do want to go on record and state that I have actually had a sheriff, not a sheriff deputy. I've actually had a sheriff explain to me the difference between the sheriff and the police. And one of the ways that he explained it to me was that the sheriff enforces law while the police enforce policy. But whenever you get this is what he said, whenever you get pulled over by a sheriff, yes, they will ask you for your license and registration, but it's to their discretion whether they want to enforce the policy about that. That is not necessarily a law that they have. If they do want to enforce that, for the most part, they would get the police involved because it's a policy and not a law. And I think this is where the law has to support, the policy has to be supported by law, of course. And I think this is where a lot of people get that mistake at, is that they don't understand that policy is backed up by law. So we have to understand what that policy is and understand what that law is, because there's a lot of places, like I'm in Corpus Christi, Texas. I lived here for going on 17 years, and for 10 of those years, they didn't bother me about a license. They bothered me about insurance. That was the only thing that I needed. And as for I did have to register my car, but I was able to register my car without a license. They did not enforce having a license here unless you would just have it. You had a license and it was suspended or something, or it was taken away from you. That's when they actually did it. But it's a lot that has. If people go out and they hear these I'm gonna call them YouTube lawyers talk about things, and then they try to regurgitate what they hear to a police, and not knowing that it's a process.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, well, what you're saying is right. What you're saying is right. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, definitely.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, what you're saying is right. What you're saying is right. And what I would like to add in that states are given discretion regarding motor vehicle law. Okay, so if the state is requiring you to have a license, then you need a license.
Right.
That's the policy. They create these policies around laws that they already live in. The United States, the federal government has given discretion to each individual state to regulate their motor vehicle laws regarding motor vehicles. Motor vehicles is anything that's powered by any type of engine, or it could be solar power, it could be whatever, anything. You know what I'm saying? That's so you want to say automobile, vehicle, these are commercial. If you look at what a motor vehicle is in your state, they'll define it. You know what I'm saying? The rep of what it is. You know what I'm saying? Certain things, a lot of people think that federal law trumps state law. Not really. You know what I'm saying? Federal, you got to understand the word federal. Federal is what's the word? When you're dealing with federal, the power of federal, it really is the distribution of authority between the national government and the local state government. So, yes, the federal dealing with the Constitution, the Union of the state, but also dealing with the jurisdiction allotted given to the state. Like, you can even go back, recently with this whole Supreme Court justice, or reversing, or turning over RV versus Roe versus Wade, and giving the authority back to the state to their discretion. Okay, that's all it really was.
That's it.
It wasn't saying you can't get an abortion, but it was just saying that now it's up to the state to regulate how you get an abortion. Like, I talked to one of my group brothers, he lives in Texas. Texas doesn't ban abortion. It's just saying that you can't get it under any other reason besides if there is a dire medical situation, if the woman is going to end up losing her life during the process. So now an abortion is okay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Which, a lot of people, women's rights. I was like, I mean, you got, where's the responsibility? I give you a right, I give you a liberty, allow you to get an abortion, right? But how are you going to treat this process? This is a lot of people don't understand, but needs to be talked about. Are you going to treat it like a cosmetic situation? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't afford a baby, I have to get an abortion. Like, that's so simple.
That.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't afford it, then do what you got to do to afford it.
That, but you found a way to afford that abortion.
Yeah, you can afford the abortion, you can afford to have the baby.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Have the baby. But, you know what I'm saying? Now, I can understand, under rape and those type of situations. I understand that. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely, I can't really argue that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a traumatic situation you're going. You know what I'm saying? And you have on. You know what I mean? But when it's like, on some situation like, I don't like this dude, I don't want his baby in, type of situation.
But you liked him enough to sleep with him.
You liked him enough to sleep with him at the time. You know what I'm saying? You just got to be more discretion of who you, and brothers too.
Exactly.
Like, don't be forcing these things because you know what I'm saying? Like, oh man, I ain't trying to really be with shorty. Da da da. You know what I'm saying? I ain't ready because I got this shorty over there. I'm talking about, like, come on, man. Like, be more responsible. You want to sleep with them, and it happens, and you get them pregnant. Guess what, bro? It is what it is.
Yep.
You want to have to, even if you're not even in love with the girl, you bring your daughter. I got a brother who actually had a situation like, you know what I'm saying? Where he, you know what I mean? He had a situation where him and the girl was actually already got kids, right? Got kids. But the girl he hooked up with, whatever, and she got her pregnant. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't no, I'm gonna get an abortion, why not? He's gonna take care of his needs. You already got kids, you know? You already got kids.
Right.
So it's on two different other ones. Right? He's like, oh man. You know what? I'm gonna do what I gotta do. You know what I mean? And I can be honest, share with the audience. You know, my situation, how I got here, was not by purpose, supposedly.
Right.
You know, universally, yes, by the will of Allah, I'm here, but by the way of my parents, I was not purposely supposed to be here.
Exactly.
My dad did not want me to be here. Like, I already had 2 kids. And my mom were not, and they were not together officially. My dad was already in a relationship. It wasn't, you know what I'm saying? So I got here when, my mom just, decided not to continue with her, with her pills, and that's how I got here. My dad was shocked. So my dad forced my mom to get an abortion, which she could have. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have been here.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't have. So, I think that sometimes, and people, we have to look at things from a spiritual mind.
Exactly.
And see that certain things, the spirit is still moving, regardless of our attention. You know what I'm saying? Our immediate attention. A lot of times the spirit is still moving regardless. Child's going to come, whether you ready or not. You know what I'm saying? Whether your attention was to have the baby or not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That child's coming. And now it's here, we got to deal with it. So, I look, a lot of times we're not thinking from a spiritual point of view.
We're not.
This is a secular society we live.
Right.
So their intentions run through a secular vein. It goes through that. So when they do things, they do it from a secular point. I'm just going to do this, whatever. And if, you get pregnant, then, we have adoptions, and then you get abortion. Like, nah, they don't even do that. The society outside of America, especially more traditional societies, man, they don't have that type of stuff, man. They believe they value every life, They value every life, and it's not, like I said, I'm all for women's rights, but every right has a responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Your freedoms have a responsibility for your freedom. A responsibility, And the law, like I said, with Roe versus Wade, the law was given, or the discretion was given back to the state, just like the motor vehicle. Discretion was given back to the state. That's why look, in New Jersey, we have the Motor Vehicle Commission. It was the DMV, right?
Right.
DMV. They changed it to the Motor Vehicle Commission. These are not officially state-oriented organizations.
Right.
These are private companies that contract. That's why you got Motor Vehicles Commission in New Jersey, and I can go over to Pennsylvania, and they got PennDOT.
Yeah.
It's the name of the company that transacted, or got the whatever
the contracts for be able to drive motor vehicles.
Whatever to help regulate Pennsylvania.
Right.
So people have to understand the law and understand that there's certain the technicalities. So when you talk about the sheriff, You talk about the police. The police does enforce policy, but people don't understand policy comes from law. They're the driven laws that come, or the rules that come out of the basis where the law is the codex. So the law, the Constitution of your state is the codex for every policy, code, and everything else that comes out.
Right.
So it's the basic, the foundation. So every law or policy has to be centered around that. Same thing with the Constitution of the United States. Every law or policy has to come from, has to be driven from the Constitution. You know what I'm saying? So all the United States codes and all that, it has a connection
Exactly.
to the United States Constitution. Okay? A code is a body of law. Okay? It's a civic. You're giving us civic lesson.
Right.
Code is a body of law. So all the more you talk about, from the past time and Queen Valeria, all these downplayed codes, policy. They didn't tell you what they were. You know what I'm saying? Code is a collection of law. Right? You say the Hammurabi Code. Right? You got a problem with the code in the United States, you want to talk about Hammurabi. Like, Hammurabi had code. It was driven from the text of law, instead of law. You know what I'm saying? The Jews have code.
Right.
The Moors definitely have, Sharia law is code. Policy. That's all Sharia law is. Sharia law is code and policy that comes from the Quran.
Right.
It derives from the Quran. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. The same thing. So it's the same methodology used in the United States of America, in each state and the collective union of the United States of America to make these laws. And, are they always concrete? No. That's why they always go back. They're able to be questioned and changed.
And this is where case law comes in at.
You know what I'm saying? It's case law. Case law is very important.
Very. If you ever challenge a law or a code and it gets rectified, like how they did with the Dred Scott. The Dred Scott was case law, and then they tried to say that the 13th Amendment overrode it.
Yeah. And in his situation, with case law is very important because a lot of Moors are trying to argue certain things. And it's like, bro, if it hasn't made it to case law yet, then it's not, then your argument is dead. You don't have an argument. You can't argue right to try. What is the case law behind a lot of these that you're saying? You know what I'm saying? What's law? It's not law. You know what I'm saying? Unless it made it to case law, unless there's deliberation on it and you actually see where it's been talked about, you know what I'm saying, from point to point, then, it gets really just, it's a fantasy game. And you can't necessarily go off of that. You can't enforce, like I said, like every state is different. Like where you at, sheriff ain't really going to enforce the driver's license, blah, 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 all that. You might just call a police thing. That ain't the same. That's not the same in New Jersey.
Right.
The sheriff is going to ask for your license and all that. He's going to ask for everything. The police is going to ask for everything. You know what I'm saying? Shoot. The NJ Transit Police is going to ask for your license. Or some type of ID. Especially, especially if you're driving or whatever on the highway. So it's agreed upon, and like people understand, these departments sit down and talk to each other. The sheriff department, the police department, they have inter-department gatherings, talk about laws and what they're going to agree to enforce. The problem is we're just not privileged to be a part in those rooms or in those meetings and stuff like that. A lot of people don't like. You gotta really become aware and become adult.
Right.
How these things work. Like, there's an inter-department discussion on law, what law enforce, what policy they discuss. It comes from a chain of command, and then it gets dispersed from the sheriff's department. It gets dispersed from, and they go back and forth. They might be in agreement or something. Okay, well we'll enforce it, or okay, well we're not really going to bother with that. that rise, then we'll call you guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, but dealing with Moors who break law or try to enforce sovereignty tactics, the police is going to call sheriff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
On Moors like that. That's why people say, if the sheriff won't come. Sheriff only going to come because the police is calling. They're not really going to, they're trained really. A lot of police are trained not to even deal with sovereignty tactics. It's called the sheriff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then now, on this level, since the rise of the Moors, the standoff in Massachusetts, and also dealing with the brother, one brother who actually broke into Sixth home in North. You know what I'm saying? They now, and I had talked to this, but I reached out to that dude. I actually reached out to Sharita, I believe the name. I actually reached out to this dude. And we had spoken, and I was in North, and I got her number off Instagram, and I had reached out to her but basically to clear any confusion regarding Moors or what we actually believe in. So she won't be thinking that we're all like that. And I spoken to her, and I said, I can't find the brother's case. I said, did you actually go and press charges? She said she wasn't at first. She was cursed to go and press charges. But she said the reason why you can't find his case is because it got bumped up to federal. That's what she told me. That's what she was told. She said the actual case was bumped up to federal.
Wow.
Because she said that what she was told is that anytime the Moors do something like adverse possession of home, all these things, basically squat, all these things, now it becomes a federal thing because now it's considered a domestic terrorist act.
Right.
So a lot of people don't understand, like, now this thing is heightened. It's on a heightened level. Because you got now, like, the standoff, or the so-called standoff. I call it the so-called, well, kind of, it wasn't really, it was so sloppy, but for the most part, that, and then you have a situation, I forgot what town it was, but it was the Moorish federal government or something. It's some one of the things I think is related to licensure. One of them, and somebody sent a letter, an envelope with some strange powder on it,
Right.
And whether someone got, I don't know if anybody got hurt or anything like that, but it alerted the whole police department. So they was like, hold on, wait. Now that's what the domestic terrorist act. Like, you sending you exchange substances on your letters. You know what I'm saying? So anything in this domestic, anybody watching, and who feels like they're following, that they should follow these brothers and sisters, really you need to rethink. Because now the level has been heightened. It's been up. It's just, if you're going around, there's certain key terms that you can't say. You know what I'm saying? You can't talk about sovereignty. You can't say like travel. You can't, anytime you got, they have a list. And the Europeans, they actually make a distinction. And they say, like, if you walk around, and your name is El Bay or Bay El, you one of those sovereign. You know what I'm saying? So they actually distinctly identify, and they know that majority of the people, who go with that are going by El Bay.
Right.
Put
Now,
El Bay together. They came from the Washington, actually. They started that trend. And a lot of people pick that up. But the prophet is distinguishing. You either have a Bay or you have an L. And there's a reason why for that. You understand? There's a reason why for that.
yeah, each appellation stands for something.
Title governs. Yeah, it governs. It stands for something, and it governs a portion of your dominant self. You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand the science of that. A sheik should be able to look at you and analyze your character and determine whether you're L or B. You know what I'm saying? That a sheik should be able to do that.
Right.
I gave my sister Sheikana was on here a week ago. when I first met her and spoke to her and her fiance on the phone, I was able to determine who was the Bay and who was the L, all the way. And I showed how they balance each other. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because Sister Shekinah is very spiritual. She's very free. She's out there. Like, as far as her no borders, no locks and chains on her expression of her spirituality. She's willing to go and do it. Like, anything to touch with her higher self, she's really, and she's helping her fiance get to that. And he's open, he's supportive, but he's more logical. He's like, but like we went to we were in Jersey City. Prior we were trying to plan on how we were going to go to Jersey City and be a part of the Juneteenth celebration. And Sister Shekinah, she wanted to decorate brother with her fiance's vehicle. Like, they put the flag and balloons up, whatever. But she wanted to draw on the car. And we was like, we ain't, the flag's cool, we ain't driving on the car because if it don't come off.
Exactly.
He was thinking logic, like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So he's like, look, we do the balloon, do all that, and we ain't drawing on my car.
You right about that.
We were joking around, but and we had on a conversation. I was talking to the sisters. I asked her about energy, how a tree, can a tree revitalize energy? Like, you grounded yourself on the plant, on the earth, in front of a tree. Can you release your negative energy into the tree, and the tree gives you that positive? And she said, absolutely. She was explaining things, talking about how he had Brother Will out, and they were actually hugging trees, stuff like that. And I was like, wow. I was like, and I noticed, it was, that's her disposition. And that's where she's at. And, Will's, her fiance is very supportive. You know what I'm saying? But I could tell where he's more of a logical, grounded, but he's going to ground her, make sure that she stays within certain bounds where, she's not going too fast. You know what I'm saying? And then she's going to actually free him on certain bounds where he's more restricted. You know what I mean? See, the balance is there. You know what I mean? And this is how a person who, a Sheik and everything, and something where you're able to notice these things, and you can determine who's the L, who's the Bay, and you can put those things, in a wider perspective. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people walk around with the Bays who are probably L, and there's people who are L's who are probably Bays.
Right.
And you gotta have a right, have someone that actually determine who you are. You both like information, but it's how you share that information. What type of information you like? I'm more of an L because I'm spiritually inclined. You know what I'm saying? I love things that are abstract. I'm not necessarily for instance, when I took art in college, and I love art. You know what I'm saying? I love drawing, I love painting. I'm a hands-on. I want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Just give me the paint, give me the pencils, and just leave me alone and let me get busy. Right? Doing art, as I was going to pursue an art minor, I had to take art history. And it was boring to me because I don't want to study these guys.
You're right.
Like, okay, they did their art, they did their thing. But I'm me. I draw me for me.
Right.
This is my expression. I'm expressing him. This is what I thought about. This is the way I was thinking at the time. Everything has a necessity, but I'm just saying, at the time, I was young, I was, my attention span was a little less, but I was also, I was engaging a lot of math.
I feel that.
Yeah, I was applying it. So my attention span, a lot of times, it's like, okay, I can't wait to get out of here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, at the time, that's the way I think, but my nature, the nature in the sense, that's why I was able to, it shows where I was even then, now, that where I'm prone to gravitate to, you know what I'm saying? Like, secret, I'm gravitating to secret, because I was looking for the spiritual aspect. ever read about the law, Moors, law, or all that? Oh, well, so what did the Moors? What's the spiritual part? And so, what are the Moors spiritual practice? I was like, what are you talking about? These dudes study geometry, algebra, astrology, astronomy. These dudes, you know what I'm saying? I'm reading all these books. I was like, oh, these dudes are Sufis. Talking about the Moors in Spain.
Right.
Andalusia. And not just there, all over. But these dudes are Sufis. They had to be. This is no way. Look, this is nature. Hey, this is nature. And no disrespect to my brother, any understanding. But you could tell anything by its fruit and what it produces. If the Moors were producing high science and elevation, right, and society was fully benefiting from these people being empowered, and the information of what the information was coming out at the time, you know what I'm saying? And they weren't, since they were, they were Sunni and all that. Okay, yeah, they had a Sunni understanding to a point of degree, but these people were master spiritual Sufis. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you read the book, everybody get this book, Sufis of Al-Andalusia, Ibn Arabi. Get that book, and you'll understand you'll see the environment of Andalusia. You'll get an understanding of the atmosphere. Because even Arabi is a master Sufi. They say Sheik Akbar, the greatest of all Sheiks. He actually he has these memoirs that talk about him studying with these different Sheiks. And these different Sheiks, who they were and what they did. He had one who was a sister, and she was able to communicate with the unseen. And he studied with her. And he would talk about, and this is the idea of a life of someone who lived in Andalusia or in the Moorish dominions at the time. You know what I'm saying? Especially those who were aesthetics or actually studying spirituality, they would go to these different places and study these different people and study. And this was the nature of life at that time. You know what I'm saying? It was nothing to go and see somebody perform in science. I got a picture I found on the internet. When you look for Moorish paintings, stuff from that time, there is a picture of these young boys. I assume they're all boys, right?
Right.
And they're in this courtyard. In this courtyard, it is a fountain. And the one boy is standing up, and he's stretching his arm towards the fountain. And you see, it's not water, but these blue beams of light shooting out of this water. Now, mind you, these are paintings. And he's supposed to these paintings depict the life or the culture of Moorish Spain, right? And this boy is stretching his arms out, and these rays of colors are coming out. Oh, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
This is the type of stuff that these people was on at that time. They had the science, man. They were manifesting the science. So it was nothing for them to show you how to do something. If you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? The first time when I got into Sheik, rest in peace, Professor Kareem Dorish. I met him at a Father's Day, through a Father's Day event in Burlington, right? And he was there because Sister Nesta from Philly, she knows a connection with their family. Because I needed to speak. She said, well, I know somebody can speak. She asked Professor Kareem, that's when he came. And he talked about Qigong and energy and, like that. So, me said, we cleaning up. Buster's sitting down, he's waiting for his wife to come pick him up. Right? I remember he had this baby blue outfit on, man, this baby blue garment. He looked sharp. Always. Mr. Kareem always been tough. Let's be deep. And I saw him pull out this blue book, right? Pull out this blue book, and all of it, every word was Arabic. It was Arabic writing. And I ain't never seen nobody read Arabic.
Right.
So I'm looking at him, he's sitting down, and he's going through it, and he's, I see his lips moving, and he's reading. And I said, excuse me, I said, brother, are you reading that? He said, yes. Is that the Quran? He said, no, it's not necessarily the Quran, but, things are actually derived from the Quran. What you call a meditation, or what they call the weird, where you read these particular things and they help invoke certain properties within you, through your meditation. And he started explaining to me, are you a Sufi? He said, yeah, you want to say that? Yeah. Right? And then we started talking, and he thought that there's different ways. You talk to Professor. Professor's going to teach, man. He's going to unload everything on him. And the elders started talking about, man, this thing. He said, there's books and things and writings you can read to make you invisible. There's writings, things that you can read to help you fly, teleport, depending on who you're at. And this stuff he was telling me right there. Like, anybody else talking from the average person, you think it's crazy. But once you delve into it and you start talking to him, you talking to Brother Sheik, you actually meet Sheik, you see that some of this stuff is actually real. And right now it's more concealed in this modern time because we're living at such a density consciousness right now in comparison to the time we were in Andalusia and power. You know what I'm saying? Where they had, this stuff, it was nothing to see something happen. You know what I mean? The idea of Hogwarts and Harry Potter comes from the Moors. The Moors were manifesting that stuff on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? They knew how to navigate. They knew how to do certain things, certain masters. You know what I'm saying? There's a story. I can't even think the story, but it was a Sheik. It was a Sheik who he went to go visit another Sheik. The Sheik, and he was at a river. I think he left his. I think he left his cane or something, and at a river. And he went to a cookbook, a talk from another Sheik, and he had to use the bathroom. Right. First, he realized he left the cane. I left my cane at the lake. Right. He left at the lake, but he had to use the bathroom. And the Sheik, he said, "What's wrong?" The Sheik was speaking. He was like, "I have to use the bath." And he said, "Well, just go in my cloak." He opened his cloak, and the guy walked in through the cloak, and he ended up at the river where he left his pen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, these are stories. You know what I'm saying? But who knows the possibility? Because if you think of Kemet and what they were doing at Kemet, you know what I'm saying? Like, these things are high science, not magic and science. That's all it is. It's just you can't explain it. Because we don't know the formula at the time. But the formula is in the Moorish Holy Quran, it's in it. You know, read because it breaks it down by purpose. And you understand certain things. We read chapter 11, and it talks about the Holy Grail, right?
Yeah.
And directing. You can direct the Elohim. You direct the Elohim with your own. What the hell is it? The seven created spirit, right? And then they created the plane.
Right.
I mean, what it says And they talk about the power in the eye, power in the hand. Right? The Holy Breath controls the power. Right? Power in the eye, power in the hand. You can control the power. You control the frequency, the force, through your breath. Right? Your breath is force. You know, so what it is, channeling your conscience. It changes the thing. It's not showing you step by step what to do, but it's giving you that conscious idea and the principle that can be applied in what you're doing. You understand? And this is more science. You know, it's why the prophet was able to stare in someone's eye, the sister's eye, and stop her bleeding. You know what I'm saying? He was healing people. You know?
Right.
He was healing people, literally. Not just with his but he do. This is why the prophet was able to manifest within only a few years. So so many people, a movement was like, I don't know. I forgot offhand. You know, members within the thousands across the nation. Within a few years' time. You know?
You're right about that.
And, you know, each temple had their finance. Each temple, Temple 4 in Detroit, they had so many members, you know, they had a lot of the members had to meet in their own home because they couldn't, not all of them could fit in the building at the time. You know, the Sheiks and stuff knew how to do stuff. Or the governors, the Sheiks, they were able to do stuff. The prophet was downloading things. You know what I'm saying? Like, they will understand. Everybody had their own portion of the time, but it collectively worked out. The way the prophet put it together. You know, but he was able to manifest these things, and he knew it was guiding him. Like, you know what I'm saying? You could feel when you read about him and read this movement, you could feel that he was being guided. And everything he was doing was being guided. Step by step. We're going from his filings, from what he was saying. That's why at certain times that you can't necessarily throw the divine warning information to somebody. Like, here, read this. You can't do that. You gotta break that down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You gotta break his literature and his words down. You gotta break the divine constitution by. That's why everybody's confused. Because everybody needs to slow down. Everybody's confused because they're doing things too fast. Slow down. Read the Divine Constitution Bible. It's deep. It's deep. The first act is deep. That's your government. That's your legislative, executive, and judicial. All in one little paragraph. You know what I'm saying? And then you have, the other acts that follow. You have 7 acts.
Right. Well,
that can be built upon. This is your foundational code that you can build policies and laws over each act.
I hear
this
that.
Is what we do, and under leadership of P. Dandridge, this is what we do. We literally got policies that we do. Like, we literally drive law because we know at the end of the day, it's not going to just be. This is going to be a full-blown nation. So these laws have to be given. And they line up with the Divine Constitution and Bible.
Yeah, you're right. And that's...
Anytime you want me to test you, but, yeah, it's all right. That's all right. But,
no, I was just saying that's a way that you can move from the Moorish paradigm into the actual Moorish Divine National Movement. And we actually are coming a little short on the time, so I was going to ask you one last question about, can you get a little bit more specific about how a person who has that Moorish mentality now, that's been awakened to who they truly are, but don't know what to do next? What would be like an actual next step that you would suggest for them?
Well, if you accepted the fact that you're a Moor, hello?
Yes, sir.
Can everybody hear me?
Oh yeah, we get you.
It's on. See. Yeah, if everybody can hear, okay. When you accept the fact that you're a Moor, when you accept the fact that you're a Moor, and you understand the fact that the label that you were given, Black, African American, Negro, etc., you accept. You have to move to the fact of proclaiming your nationality. Proclaiming your nationality is basically in Act 6 described and said, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality. So, if you're proclaiming your nationality as Moorish American, that's the political destination for Moors in America, is Moorish America. Moorish being the fact that you derive from the Moor, but also Moorish because Moorish is also giving you what they call super nationality. You go into a Close of the Pyramid Debate book with other children in the world talked about supranational, like someone said British, and so forth and so on, Polish, you know what I'm saying, those types of things. You know, you're dealing with a nationality that expands beyond a particular designated territory, right? So, in that sense, and you're dealing with a collective of people who have different experiences. But I'm just giving you a basis of why it's Moorish. It doesn't, a lot of people want to say I'm a Moor American. They don't understand. They don't understand basic English. A Moorish
Right.
American is the proper title. So you can have Moorish, the title. People understand grammar. You know what I'm saying? All these super etymology people, right? No, Moorish American is a proper noun. It's the title. So Moorish, there's nothing wrong with Moorish American. The proper noun.
I mean, that's just like Irish,
So,
Scottish, so on and so forth.
I was, all that stuff, So when you're dealing with Moorish, when you're dealing with Moorish American, the body that represents Moorish America is the Moorish Scientific Movement. So I encourage anyone who wants to claim their nationality, join the Moorish Scientific Movement. Particularly, I've joined one I'm part of, and we have English connection to the Prophet. I don't know if the time, maybe one day if I get invited back, I can explain that. But when you join you proclaim, you join, you get your nationality card. It's your nationality card. What you want to do now, there's levels you can do, like when you, say if you go and change your name, put your El Bay on your name. Now, a lot of people don't want to pay the fee. A lot of places have deferred payment, or they have where they actually, you don't have to pay a fee if you don't make it. You don't make enough, for it. They can determine your financial situation, and they'll basically they'll avoid the fee. You don't have to pay it. Chicago does that a lot. I know somebody who changed their name like 3 times. You know what I'm saying? They didn't pay a dime. You know what I'm saying? So they won't work, or they didn't have enough money. But because of that, Chicago's like, okay, cool, we change your name. So a lot of times when you do that, you want to make sure you make a copy of your nationality card. You get an affidavit statement from your national. Put that with your paperwork when you go get your name changed, your name correct. You get your L and Bay, or your L or Bay on your name, and then you have it on record. Okay, you have it on record because they're going to make. There's a lot of places they're still going to have you make an announcement in a public announcement in the newspaper, the local paper. So therefore, it's on record again. There,
Right.
it's your nationality. And in our administration, we have a religious diversion affidavit as though. You put that with your paperwork with your county or municipality. And then what you do is you just let them know that, anything, because a lot of times they're going to ask you for a reason. Just tell them, see attachment. You know what I'm saying? And then for the record, you'll see it that. Now for me, I put into aspect, my religious, I put like important aspect on the divine constitution, which I actually put a copy of my divine constitution down. This is on the record. Right? So anyone knows that that's what you are. If they want to look, you have it on the record. So keep your copy. Now, here's another thing. The census. No, our people don't like the census.
Right.
Oh, we don't like the census is powerful. Because the census is asking you to self-identify.
Exactly.
What are you? What are you? It's simple. Self-identify. So what we did in 2020 was we had a campaign where we were telling everybody, whether you were Hebrew Israelite, whether you Nationality Islam, whether you whatever, right? Not to put black or African American. Put Asiatic. You targeted the Hebrew Israelites, targeted Nation of Islam, particularly wanted to talk to them because in the gods and earths is because we all basically agree that we come from this Asiatic land.
Right.
So it's easy. Like, hey, look, you want to put Asiatic Hebrew or Asiatic Israelite, you do that. But we're just telling you don't put black.
Exactly.
Okay? You agree with that, right? Nation of Islam. Yeah. Hey, I know y'all say black, the black man. You understand the wisdom lesson? Cool. We saying for the census sake, don't put black. Put Asiatic, right? Okay, put Asiatic, right? And same thing with the gods, put Asiatic. The census is a federal document, and it's set to be a document as proof of what you identify. So in a court of law, or in a situation where a job is trying to deny you the right to self-identify, bring a census document. Oh, wait a minute, this is what I put down for the census.
Exactly.
Now, brothers and sisters who are listening to this, you are going to have to push. Right? I'm going to use the word push. Because it's still not a widespread accepted understanding among folks. And so remember, when you're dealing with a lot of these people, these clerks, when you're dealing with secretaries, and you're dealing with people at jobs, these are ground level people who don't know nothing. Right? And they're only going off the books, what they're told and what they're trying to do. So you got to have a little patience. But you got to push. You got to push. The Grand Sheik is to really be pushing for you. Really. They should be right there with you, helping. You know what I'm saying? Even with even with the vaccination. And so that we have a Supreme Grand Council ruling along with the affidavit that all our members get, they choose to have. That helps them express their right to refuse the vaccination. You know what I mean? But it's a push.
Right.
Because they're going to, they want you to get the vaccine. But you got to go back and forth with them a little bit. Sometimes, I gave them affidavits to people. Boom. As soon as I put it down and they gave it to them, boom. They ain't hear nothing from the HR. No H from the HR, nothing. As soon as the HR got it, boom, go.
Right. Right.
Some people, some people for it again. You gotta fight. Sometimes you gotta fight. It's a fight because I can't say that throughout the decade that the temple was on its A game. It wasn't. It was definitely not on the A. The elders definitely weren't on their A. I think a lot of times they didn't know, and they just kept to themselves. And therefore the public representation was weak. And the public representation was weak. So therefore, here we come, new Moors, eyes wide open, no one is seeing. We ready to put the work in, And we gotta start from almost ground level. You know, because the public, time has gone by and the public forgot.
Yep.
You know, the public forgot.
Yep.
And so now you get, you got the Showtime, the Vice Showtime special, and throughout the whole Vice Showtime special, they show majority the Moors doing the comedy stuff, and they give them a different narrative. Of course, they got the brother Brazil Bay, who represents this group of Moors, and as a representative.
Right.
I talked to Chief Dandridge, and he saw it, and he said one issue is what he would have done if he was interviewed. He would have said he wouldn't focus on what we're not. He would focus on what we are. You know what I'm saying? He said that's one thing you don't want to do. Sometimes you want to focus on what we are, because then it opens up a more of an understanding to people. Because if I say, okay, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do that, no, this is what we do.
Right.
This is what we believe. You know what I'm saying? So people have sometimes one thing, Sister, I know Sister Juanita, Sister Shekinah, I'm sorry, I apologize. Shekinah talked about sometimes that she does with therapy too.
Right.
That sometimes our language can be inviting, and sometimes it can be inviting.
Right.
And that's what I'm working on too myself. I know a lot because my language can be uninviting, and sometimes you have to be careful. So when you're dealing with presenting to the public, when you say we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do that, some people don't want to hear that.
Right.
Some people all.
Right.
Whether they agree or not. But if I say this is what we do, you say this is what we do, this is who we are, this is why we do. You're giving a clear understanding of what Moorish Americans are and why we call ourselves Moorish Americans. Going back to the 14th Amendment, the narrative, they're Moors because that's who we're here, and that's what they were recognized as. We're Moorish Americans. I'm putting myself in the proper context now in American history.
Exactly.
That's what it is, basically. That's all it is in a nutshell. I'm putting myself in the proper context. I'm down, my status has changed in a sense. Because now I'm not going by the slave.
Exactly.
I'm not an adult. I'm not a foundational black. Or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? Foundational black. I'm Moorish. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? There's a book called Jews and Muslims in British Colonial America. Right? Jews and Muslims, British Colonial America. I plug in this book. And when I got the book, and I got this book, I started reading it. I ain't even finished it. But the fact is, the book, throughout the book, these Europeans who wrote this book did not hold back using the word war.
Right.
Just want to say that. They did not hold back in that book using the word war. So this is evidence of our identity prior to slavery. Evidence of us being more.
Yeah.
We don't, you need the comments, Annie and Curtis, you know what I'm saying, where they use the word colored, you will. I don't know the original script. And when I read, the book I read, the edition I read is an edition from the 1950s. So I don't know exactly the original edition that when Abraham Lincoln actually wrote.
Right.
I haven't seen it yet. You know what I'm saying? It could have had the word more, because Abraham Lincoln even knew what was up.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With we're dealing with Dungy versus
Yep. William Dungy versus I'm gonna look it up right now because
I know Dungy versus
William Dungy. Okay, the case was William Dungy versus Joseph Spencer. When Joseph Spencer accused him of being a black man.
Yeah, Dungy Spencer. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And Abraham Lincoln, in his days as a lawyer, represented Dungy, and he said, he may have, dark skin, but he's not a Negro. He's a Moor, not a Negro. He's a Moor.
Yes.
Right. And he said, it's not a crime to have dark skin, but it's a crime to be
black
or
Yep.
Negro. It's a crime to be a Negro.
Yep.
Right? He said dark skin. Then it's going to, because they try to switch it up. They try to act like Dungy was light skin. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Portuguese. Like,
Right.
I mean, I want a lunch. Whatever. Nah, man. They said dark skin so many times in that,
In the closing statement.
Dungy had dark skin. And what happened was, Spencer hasn't met him yet. That was the thing. They never physically met. He didn't know who Dungy was. You know what I'm saying? Or Black Bill, right?
Right.
He didn't know. He didn't know who he was. He just knew, hey, my sister married this dude. She loves him. She's a good dude. Make still some land to him. Whatever. But then found out, what? I can't do this. According to the antebellum law in Chicago, Illinois, right?
Right.
So it was already known that this man had dark skin. So they knew who the Moors were. Even in Tandy's discussion, talking about he's talking about our race, unfortunate race, right? And then he talks about, but we were part of civilized, we're part of the civilized world, very much a part of the civilized, because we were the Moors. He knew. You understand? They knew who we are. These people know who we are. People in high intellectual societies, they know who we are. Mary Beth and them who work at the front desk might not know who we are. Skip and Chad who wear the badges might not know who we are. You know what I'm saying? I don't blame them. They don't know. But the ones in those intellectual societies, they know. They know.
Right.
They know that's the proper designation. They know about the proper. Because what he did was so profound for his time. And I'm gonna say this too, and I want the audience to understand. Like everyone talks about what happened in 100 years. Why is it in 100 years the Moors didn't do this fell apart, It was supposed to fall apart, everybody. It was never supposed to be together. It was never supposed to come together for 1920 or 1929. All part of the divine plan. Because what the prophets set apart wasn't for them back then in 1920. It's for us in this time. Because if you look at what he set up and what he was aiming for, it was not going to come together at that time. Now is more of an appropriate time to do what, for everything to come into manifest.
Exactly.
You think about Tulsa, Oklahoma, you think about Rosewood. Okay, if we started a society where stuff was booming and everything like that, the Europeans did just burnt that stuff down at that time, 1920, 1930. But now, it's more appropriate to set aside something. It's more appropriate. Because, the world is more sensitive. The world is more open. They're not going to let a whole a community get burnt up and destroyed and not dead. And somebody not bringing life to it. That stuff ain't gonna get away, especially with the cameras on everybody's phone. You know what I'm saying? Like, so.
Oh yeah.
We're talking about the appropriate things putting together, the economic stuff they're now putting together. This stuff that could be now pushed and now come to manifest is more acceptable in our time with the prophet. was trying to do back then. It's more sensible now. You know what I'm saying? So, especially in this age of self-identification now. You know, when people, you know, I'm this. I'm this. I want to be identified as this. I'm going to identify this one day. I'm this one day. I was told we on a train coming back and get off work. And we talked to this one guy. He works at, you know, Amazon. And he talked about the Amazon he works at. They got tampons in the men's bathroom. Right?
Right.
So, you know, this self-identity thing has really been taken by a group of people. They actually are capitalized on it, which is fine. It shouldn't be. I mean, they had the right to, you know. But at the same time, the more Americans now, this is the time for us to push our stuff like that. Okay? It's art, you know, and this is where we have to be intellectual. You have to take an intellectual approach. You can't be talking about, well, we more, this, you know, and this, that. We have to, like, there's a video that Spring actually, Pete Dandridge did for the census, right? And his part was he was trying to take the historical record from the Inquisition, Papa Bull, those things, and the descriptions of laid out. Take information from the Dynamite Nietzsche realm and try to show how it relates to the so-called African American. So to justify the reason to identify as Asiatic borders, right?
Right.
So these things, you know what I'm saying, this is very important. These things are important because we have to be intellectual. We have to show the facts now. We can't just mystify talk, you know? Because when you go in front of the audience, you know what I'm saying, they're going to chew you up. They're going to question everything. They ain't just going to listen. They're going to be like, okay, well, you know, you're not going to get just chewed up by, you know, Europeans. You're going to get chewed up by your own people. You're going to have a dissenting thought. You got to be able to cover everything and speak with an intelligent tone and not just freestyle information. You know what I'm saying? There's no more time, no more. You got to put the rest on that. You know, I self law and master, Allah, all you got to put that stuff. That's not intelligent. I'm not going to go to you and say Islam is I self law and master when Islam is an Arabic word. I can't break it down to a English. I can't turn to an acronym using an English word. That just doesn't make sense.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? So I put on Instagram, if you're going to use it, you're going to break it down to acronyms, then you say Islam represents Inshallah, Allah, La ilaha illallah, Astaghfirullah, and Mashallah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to use Arabic words.
Right.
And you got to understand, you know, where all that acronym stuff came from, breaking stuff down. It came from CMB. CMB did not like religion. You read read the Crocodile and the Zodiac Constitution. Read it and read it from a literary perspective and try to notice the tone when he speaks on religion. He doesn't like it. So of course he's going to say I said more master. Of course he's going to say, you know, certain things that take away from the actual concept in religion and change it into more of a Masonic and secular understanding.
Right.
He didn't like religion. So all the more so quoting CMB, you're quoting someone who did not like Islam, and did not understand Islam, and did not understand religion. He didn't like it. He thought masonry, all you needed was masonry and astrology. You know?
Oh, we lost. We're going to be getting right back in just a moment. All right, sorry about that technical difficulties, but we are back. All right, Talik El, we're back in the building. We are back recording now. Sorry about that.
That's fine, brother. And I'll just wind it down because I know you gotta close it, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
I'm just saying, moving forward, we have to be clear on how we're going to present this understanding to people and the wider audience. You know what I'm saying? We have to take it out of the hall, our study groups, take it out of the halls of our company, and make it more relevant to the conscious mind of the people. We do have a right to self-identify here in America. There's no law saying that we have to remain Negro, black, colored. We can self-identify, so therefore our nationality now is more acceptable on this current platform of, nationwide. The LGBTQ community has taken full advantage and working this self-identity platform, and they're doing it very well. So I think we can take a lot from it. We can take some notes from their page. What we should do.
Yep.
And we can actually put things in place and moving forward. But we do need assets. And so we need business. Always need to look into starting business. Nothing wrong having the LLC. Nothing wrong having things. Start doing community work. But that more so. Doing community work more so. Don't talk about you Emperor so and so, or you Emperor so and so. You haven't done nothing in your community. You know what I'm saying? Moors need to do that. You gotta start being humble and knowing that we're servants first. Magistrate and subject. Chapter in the Moorish, Quran and Moorish scientific method. Study that. You know what I'm saying? Learn that. Even the magistrate does anything. He's subject to the public, and we're subject to the public. When we say public, that means serving our people. So the more we do that, we build a connection to the vast public people. You know what I'm saying? And then they understand who we are, and they won't see us as a threat. Or more from like, oh, you guys, that's all y'all want to squat and pound, right? So y'all driving no light, right? That's everybody. That's every perception of people. You know what I'm saying? No, we gotta come to the forefront. The Moorish Scientific America, the Moorish Divine National Movement, is supposed to be the authority on everything Moorish. Everything Moorish. So whatever European academia they're doing with the Moor identity, trying to say it's just Berber, Arab, and people in Africa, even in Africa, those are regions. They think of the Moors or the Berbers, Arab. They're gonna switch the identity so bad that brothers in Africa don't even identify themselves as Moors.
Right.
They don't even know. They forget. There's those stuff happening. So much stuff happened. You know what I'm saying? That they got separated, and now the narrative got switched even over there. So we gotta correct it everywhere, globally. I know. You know what I'm saying? So the identity has to be corrected. We have a lot to do, and the Moorish Scientific America has to be, the hub for it. Anything Moorish comes to us. So we have to correct the narrative. So when you come in, and the brothers and sisters, when you proclaim the nationality, and through your Sheik is supposed to work with you and help you in this process. You know what I'm saying? Don't come in thinking, kick your feet up. No. You come in ready to work. Come in with ideas. Come in with things that you want to enter. You got a business, come with the business. You ain't got none of that. Come willing to do whatever they ask you to do. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you need done, you should be willing to do. You know what I mean? Come in ready to work. Because it's time to build it up. We're not at the, we got to make up a lot of time. So you got friends, bring them in. And you made some properties, bring the properties in. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you got going, bring it. You know what I'm saying? Bring it with you. You know what I'm saying? Add in. Don't just come in looking. I got my nationality. I'm jumping. No, you got to work. You know what I'm saying? If you're a teacher, come in with your skills. You know what I'm saying? So we can set up homeschool or school within ourselves, for ourselves. If you're an auto mechanic, come in. You sell cars. You got something dealing with cars, shoot, you might need some vehicles. Vans to transport birds. You got medical skills and medical background. You're a doctor, nurse,
Yeah.
whatever, a midwife or a doula. Bring that stuff in so we can set up home births so our kids won't have to go through the vaccination system, stuff like that. So we can do these things and correct this, so we can start breeding more Zion kids instead of them being in the matrix. Understand what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to have we want more our kids to have less plugs. Understand each time. Like you don't want them having all plugs up and down. If you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Less detachment. More attached to the temple. More attached to our body politic. You understand? And less attached to the system in a sense, in that way. So we want, if you got political states, you got, you're a politician or you're an aspiring politician or have grant campaigns for help, but bring that information up. You know what I'm saying? If you work at the clerk, if you're a notary public, come in, bring your skills. Or if you don't have anything and you can be a notary public, you can sign up and become a notary public. Help out. These are things that you can become an asset to the temple, become an asset to the movement. That's one thing that hasn't been taught to other Moors. But you got to become an asset now. Be an asset. Don't come in and just listen. Come in willing to put some work in. You got computer skills. We need somebody who can set up systems, improve and monitor the website. And set up different things, you understand, for us, on the internet and technology and stuff like that. And we need that.
Right. Yeah, you got to be ready to come in and be active. You got to be ready to come in and be active. As an active Moor, we get things done. Yeah, but we actually coming down to the last 60 seconds, brother. So, but we got so much information, and I just want to thank you for giving us this great information, because a lot of people like you say they have that Moorish paradigm, they have the Moorish mentality, but they haven't actually moved towards that Moorish divine national movement yet. So hopefully we'll be able to use this they'll be able to use this information to start making some changes. So I just want to give it like another 10 seconds. Tell them how they can find you, what social media you know.
Talik El on Facebook and Instagram. Go to www.mstofa.net. Claim your nationality. Also, Moorish Mission 28 on Instagram. You'll find me. And also our phone number is 609-614-0274. If you want to contact us and you're in the New Jersey, New York, Philadelphia, even Delaware area, contact us and meet up with him.
So y'all definitely reach out to him. This is Talik El here on Revolutionary Hour on BOSS Radio. So I just want to say thank you once again for joining us. And you already know what this is. Y'all all go ahead and share, like, and subscribe to all of the social media and all the streaming services. Everybody, y'all have a wonderful evening.